When trying to figure out your brand, I think you need to figure out who you are as an individual first, stay true to that, be consistent with that, and I think through time, you got to play the long game. And I think over time, that will bode well as opposed to constantly trying to keep up with the trend.
Stand with me and let's welcome Mario Lopez. Knowing how to win is something that I think that you're really good at. And I think, the consistency and some of the things you're doing, how do you recognize an opportunity today? Because one of the things that you were just talking about is you're like, the acting opportunities, they weren't as, there weren't a ton of them, and you went and made a lot of opportunities. But how do you recognize an opportunity?
Well, I think when something's not there, again, like you sort of have to pivot and be real with yourself and what you're good at or gravitate towards, or people in your life. I'm big on relationships. I really, you don't necessarily have to be the smartest person in the world, but I think if you're a hard worker, again, disciplined, consistent, you show up, you make good relationships, you're polite, you're just a nice person, I really do feel it goes a long way. And when you meet a lot of people, those relationships sort of present opportunities too that maybe you wouldn't have considered before. And that happened with radio, that happened on Broadway, that happened with hosting initially, happened when I call fights now for, because I've had such the background for Netflix. I'm going to be doing the big Tyson Fury, the heavyweight championship. I just did the Canelo Crawford. So those are areas that I never would have thought that I've gotten, but it came through relationships, people that I've met, people that said, hey, have you considered this, or would you be interested? And had I not kind of struck up those relationships, I don't think those opportunities would have ever presented itself, or nor would I've ever considered it. So when they say it's kind of like who you know, it doesn't necessarily mean who's high up on the ladder, but I just think the more people you know, you leave a good impression, you're authentic, you're nice, I think it does go a long way.
Man, that's awesome. How do you think about, actually, maybe this is a different way to ask it. What stresses you out?
I get stressed out every day, but not because I'm always like, I've got like guarded optimism. I'm still that kid from Chula Vista that didn't really grow up with much. And I feel when people start making money, they can go one of two ways. They can be very flashy and kind of a show off with it, or they can be like, oh, I better save it because I know everything can end like this, and like a rainy day. I'm always have a rainy day sort of attitude. Okay. I don't know, because my old man's sort of like that, and so it just kind of rubbed off. But that's why I've always maintained still a hustler mentality. I've never really been one to kind of and sort of rest on my laurels. And I don't want to retire. I mean, I'm about to be 53, and I don't want to have any plans to want to slow down. I want to be like Dick Clarkson. I want to be there for the kid. Remember Regis Philbin? He was like there for like till his 80s or something. And I think a person has to have, especially a man, has to have a reason to wake up and do stuff. Plus, I got 3 kids that are in Catholic school. I guess pricey. So, but I here's the big difference, though. In all seriousness, I love what I do, and I love the space. So it doesn't feel like work, and I'm blessed enough to be able to continue to do stuff here. But I'm never too set in my ways to where I wouldn't consider something else.
Yeah.
Because I did all those different things. Even now, like at this point in my career, I'd be still open to considering different things and pivoting yet again.
Well, I mean, open-minded, the relationships plus open-mindedness is what I think really gave you I can see an opportunity here, I can see how it fits. So I want to talk about, managing your brand here in just a second, but I just want to go back to how you met your wife on Broadway. Okay. Can you just tell us what happened?
So one of the things I always wanted to do was be on a Broadway show, and it was sort of like a big bucket list thing, and had the opportunity for 6 months to do a show called The Chorus Line. Somebody here told me they saw me on it, right? Yeah, that dude.
Wyatt.
He said he saw me. He said I was all right that night, so thanks. Thank you. So I was there for 6 months, and the first 4 months, I had gotten out of a relationship maybe about, 9 months prior. So I was kind of having fun and, going out and stuff, and it's 8 shows a week, and it's a lot of work. But I just kind of got tired. I was at that point in my life where I just kind of got tired of just kind of, partying and having fun right there. I just kind of hang, whatever. And the last 2 months of the show, my wife had come to be a part of it. She was coming off of another Broadway show called Crybaby. She had done the show before, but she just went to go left and did that. So she was there, and I see this like cute little Italian girl on the side of the stage, and I kind of tried to talk to her, and she wasn't really kind of feeling me. And then and I was like, just to be nice. And then I was like, okay, whatever. And then we kept seeing each other, and she still wasn't really kind of giving me the time of day. And then I thought, man, she's tough. and finally, we had a little conversation, and she succumbed to my pressure. She said, I like to think my charm, but my pressure. And she said she'd go out with me, and then she brought her friend. And then finally I got a chance to go out with her alone, and we hit it off. And then we were just we were hanging out every day, but there was only, like at this point, about a month left. So I said, she lives in New York, I live in LA. I'm not gonna, there's no way this is gonna, I'm gonna just enjoy our time while I'm here. And, we'll have fun, and then who knows, if I'm here and she's in LA, maybe we'll meet up again. So I didn't think anything of it. But at the time, so we went our separate ways when the run ended. At the time, there was Skype. Remember Skype? There wasn't FaceTime or anything like that, and that kind of saved, because I wasn't trying to maintain the relationship, but I started to miss her, and we Skyped, and she'd come out. It got to the point where I'd fly her out every couple weeks and stuff, and she didn't like the show she was doing. She went to go do The Little Mermaid. She's like, I don't want to play a fish anymore. I'm not having fun. And it was summertime, so I said, hey, listen, and I was really missing her at this point, and I said, here's the deal. I said, you're not happy with your show. You say you're thinking about quitting anyway. It's summer. I said, let me take care of your apartment for the next 3 months. Come hang out in the summer for LA. If at any point you're not happy or you think I'm crazy, whatever, just go back, and no harm, no foul, right? So she came out, and then the couple months ended, and I said, I don't want you to leave. You want to leave? She's like, I don't want to leave either. Cut to, married now.
Yeah.
Been together like almost 20 years, 3 kids, 3 dogs. Amazing. And it just sort of happened. Yeah. It just sort of I woke up and it was like, oh my God, I'm married with 3 kids. But she's awesome. She's awesome. And honestly, my life even went to a whole nother level and got better once she came into it and I got married. I think when a man has like an anchor, like that really grounds him in something to put things in perspective, he can really focus on a career, and anything else in life that he wants to accomplish. Once that's sort of part of my life, at least for me, when that kind of got handled and settled, I had more time, energy, and focus on career and other things that I wanted to do. So I really do kind of credit her a lot for allowing me to, or me focusing on everything else and taking it to the next level.
Yeah, but think about it, like the Hollywood space that you're in, 20 years that's not a very common thing.
No, that's like 50 years in Chicago. Yeah. And not to be like goofy or anything, but better than ever. It's great. It's better than ever. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I tried to squeeze one more kid. She didn't want to let me.
She was like, nope.
I was like,
nope.
She said, not with me, though. You can have another one, not with me. I said, all right. I said, we'll stop.
What are you saying?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for this. Sometimes I get to ask the curious questions, you know what I mean? So, I was glad that you answered that one. Yeah. And I would say similar, right? It's an accelerant when you have somebody that can really look you in the eyes and hold you accountable or challenge you and things like that. It's a huge deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, one of the things that you've done really, really well is like, you were talking a second ago about like, well, this is the stuff that I put my name on. And you don't do that willy-nilly. You know what I mean? There's a curation thing, and I love the anchor of the framework with the 4 Fs about how you're like, okay, well, this is how I make a decision. But tell us some of the stuff that you've said no to that would not have been very Mario Lopez of the brands.
Well, it's the stuff that didn't fall into those 4F buckets, but I'm trying to think. like when the cannabis space sort of started coming into, I just didn't want to sort of and there's nothing wrong with it, obviously. I know it's legal in a lot
They're
of
like,
places.
you're from Chula Vista?
Pardon me?
They're like, you're from Chula Vista? Yeah.
Well, it does have medicinal benefits.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
hearing the whole pitch. I was just, okay,
You're a
it's
fitness
just not
guy,
really, it's just not, it's not my thing. Just off the top of my head, I just remember that was one. And there was other sort of gambling stuff. And so, now again, not that there's anything wrong with it. And I've been to Vegas and I just didn't want to I just didn't really feel like it was my brand. And what else? Stuff like other racy kind of, stuff that maybe I wasn't just sort of feeling.
Well,
Which is, again, it just wasn't, I got to be able to, I always think, am I going to be able to be on a talk show or do a podcast and be able to talk about it from an organic place and something that I can relate to? And if I can't, then I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's really good. One of the things...
Here, like I could tell, I talked about the wipes easy, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You talked about that one too easy almost.
Yeah. It's the best seller. I'm gonna hook you up.
I gave you a shirt. You know what I mean?
That's right. You can trade.
So we're at just the world that we're in, right? We're at an HR conference. We do the HR software and all these kinds of things. And I think one of the things we wake up and think about every day is building teams. Mm-hmm. And you've had to do the same thing because, we've talked a lot about your choices and the team family that you've put around you, and the family thing being huge. But you've had to build a team, and the relationships being so powerful. Talk to us about how you think about building teams that can really carry the brand, or how you work with teams.
No, it's incredibly important. No one has any sort of level of success alone. I don't care who they are. You had to have people that you rely on, that helped you, that you can count on, and that are supportive. Aside from having that great foundation at home that really helped me sort of settle and focus my outside team, whether that was my manager or the agent who I've had now for 20-something years.
Yeah.
So even the friends that you keep around you too. As I've gotten older, my circle has gotten a little smaller, just because you don't have time for any sort of nonsense, and I know what I want, and I know how I'm focused, and either they're going to be with me and to help me stay on that path, and you don't want any sort of distractions, and you sort of start to recognize that as you get older, and I think you have to align yourself with people who are also like-minded, who are also goal-oriented, who also sort of want the same things out of life. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the same entertainment space or what have you, but just, again, are ambitious, are motivated, are also disciplined, and I think that really does help. You hear that old expression, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you really are, and there's a lot of truth to that. I've been blessed with not just a great family, but also some good friends that have been there. And I do have some new friends, too, that have come in that are close, but for some reason God put them in my life, and they just sort of clicked and resonated, and they've also been very beneficial just all the way around.
Yeah. Well, what's kind of whether it's maybe a book or a mentor or another idea that you have, what's sort of a key piece of it? Could be advice or a phrase that you live by or something like that that's really become a part of you that you learned from somewhere else?
I've always my sort of mantra is, I try to work hard, stay focused, do the right thing, and I feel the right things will happen for me. And I sort of surrender to that. You don't want to be too controlling, control everything. You got to sort of be open to change, because it's inevitable, so it will come. For example, NBC just got rid of their whole syndication department and stuff. And my show that I've done there, oh my gosh, from Extra to Access Hollywood, 18 years now, the whole department's going to be gone. But I've already got, I'm doing a new show, coincidentally with my wife, on Lifetime, called The Balancing Act.
Wow.
I'm right now, we're figuring out some other stuff on which way we're going to go, and the podcast space now is having a lot of visual mediums, and iHeart approached me about doing something with Netflix with them, so I'm trying to figure out the other, So again, you always kind of sort of evolving and pivoting, and you have to be sort of like water and just kind of flow with it. So maintaining that sort of attitude, I think, is key.
Yeah, it's good. What is kind of the key to managing public versus private life for you?
I mean, for me, what you see is what you get. Like this is who I am, and I think that's one of the reasons I think I've been able to kind of hang out for 40 some odd years now in this business is I think I've always been pretty true. That same kid from Chula Vista, and I think the audience, they're smart and they respond to authenticity, and they can tell when someone's phony and someone's not like themselves, and so I think being true to who you are and not changing, being real, being disciplined and consistent, that I think is incredibly valuable for your brand, and in sustaining.
That's good. Well, we've talked about a lot of stuff. I had a question here, but I'm going to deviate
Okay.
because I want to ask you this.
All right.
What is the most impactful thing that you said to your kids that they were like, "Thanks for telling me that" a while later?
Well, they're still small. My kids, we're talking 6. So they're not,
It could be about toys. They were like, "Dad, thanks,"
one of my biggest, my kids are growing up very different from how I did. And one of my biggest concerns, I don't say fears, but concerns was like, I don't want spoiled kids. I don't want brats. So I made sure that I'm extra sort of tough on them as far as when it comes to discipline.
So you limit Christmas.
So, they're not.
Not Christmas.
The best compliment I get all the time is that it makes me feel so good. Is what Mario kids are so nice. They're so polite. They're so sweet, and they really are. They're really polite and they're good kids. And I think I try to lead by example. They see me with a strong work ethic. They see me get up early every morning. They see if they're not with me, they see me go to mass on Sundays. They see me, and so I think showing them by example. They know that there's no laziness allowed at Casa Lopez.
Yeah.
And they see how I treat people. So, and I think that's the best thing you can do for your kids. You're
100%.
showing people, you treat them with respect. You're being nice. And I always tell them, what's the most important words? And I always, please, thank you, you're welcome, excuse me. So they repeat it back to me. So, I feel really proud to say. And my wife's been great about that too, and we're united in that front. So the kids. I talk about the kids for a second. So now, like my son who's doing this movie, he's the only one of my 3 kids that wanted to kind of get into this business, which I strongly try to discourage, knowing how tough it is. And he said, "No, but I really want to do it, Dad." And I was like, "All right, you want to do it? Okay, then start taking classes. Let's start taking classes. Show me you want to do it. Start doing little plays, this and that." I was like, "Okay." And then he started doing it. He was doing well. Okay, let's get an agent if you want to do that. And he met with them, and he was very personable. Cut to, now he's done, I think he's doing like his 4th movie. He just did a little thing with Kathy Bates and Matlock. And he's on this latest season, which hasn't aired yet, of The Lincoln Lawyer. He's doing the movie right here in Buffalo, and he just flew back today to go back to L.A. to do The Lincoln Lawyer, and he's got to fly back. So he's doing great.
Wow.
I was like, look at this guy, I can't believe it. So he's doing great. And my daughter, who actually I thought initially might want to be into. She doesn't like to be in front of the camera so much, but she's like a little Paula Abdul. She's all of a sudden this great little choreographer, and she's like choreographing quinceañeras and bar mitzvahs and doing all this stuff for school dance and she's loving that and performing. And my youngest, he's a character. He's a little menace. I'm just going to try to keep him out of prison. But and all the kids are pretty athletic and stuff. So, but he's like doing really well in his kickboxing and wrestling and all this stuff. So, the kid's schedule now is like a full-time job for us, and it's a whole, you're basically an Uber, and and it's tough kind of keeping up with them. But yeah, I'm constantly on them about how important it is to, and I always stress, of course, school comes first. And if you want to do these activities and stuff, you got to, obviously maintain your grades, and that's a tough balance with all their activities too. But I'm kind of taking a page out of my parents' book and keeping them busy every day too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you said they're 6 and they're doing all that?
Well, the
Oh,
older one, the 6-year-old does it every day. He has something after
Okay,
school,
yeah,
and
that's
even in summertime, he's going like these little summer school classes, and he's got little wrestling camps, and he's got.
You
My
keep 'em
son
busy.
from the movie is going to Ohio State for this wrestling camp after that. So so they're busy.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, one of the things that I just wanted to ask is kind of like to close us out is, there are people who could be stuck in one version of themselves, right? What would be something you could say to an entrepreneur or somebody in a leadership role or any of us that we feel stuck in one version of ourselves? Something you've been able to do is break out of that. What advice would you give us to figure out how to break out of that one version?
I think you should be open to whatever is offered to you, and actually seek it and search it. You may be opening yourself to a whole new world. Again, I try to meet as many different people as I can in many different walks of life. I love hearing about new perspectives. I love just kind of having a healthy dialogue. Unfortunately, it seems like we can't do that on social media, so you should try to do that in real life with these people. And again, I feel that these opportunities will present yourself. And I think when when trying to figure out your brand, I think you need to figure out who you are as an individual first. Stay true to that. Be consistent with that. And I think through time, you got to play the long game. And I think over time that will bode well, as opposed to constantly trying to keep up with the trend. I've never tried to want to keep up with a trend or be like the hottest singer. Like singers try to do all that. I try to be consistent on. I know who I am. I'm going to stay that way. You can like me or not, but at least you can't say that I was phony or I was never. He used to be one way. He used to be this. He's consistent. And I think familiarity brings comfort. So if you stay consistent and true who you are, people are going to respond to you, and they're going to like you because the world's always changing. And if you can be somewhat of a consistency in their life, it's going to benefit you, both financially and just in life.
Yeah,
I think so.
Man, that's awesome. Let's give AC Slater a big round of applause. Hey, thanks for coming.
Oh, you got it. Oh, we're done. All right.
It's